hoopinhoops.com. If you like the content, don't forget, please subscribe. So the first round of the NBA playoffs are done. And I could say there is really nothing surprising that happened for me personally. I could point to the Celtics beating the Nets, but if persons remember from the start of the first round, I thought there was a credible chance that the Celtics would win the series. In fact, I said if the Celtics won the series, there is a good chance they could go all the way to the NBA Finals. Of course, you cannot ignore the Bucks being a problem for them to get by. So, as I said, no real surprise. But we'll get to the Celtics Bucks in a second. If we look at the Western Conference, the Suns got by the Pelicans, and I do not know anybody that thought New Orleans would have won the series. With the addition of CJ McCollum, they got more potent, at least offensively. So, you know, they would put up some resistance. They should become more of a problem in the West when Zion comes back and hopefully stays healthy throughout the season next year. But it's not just CJ, Ingram, and Zion. Jonas Valanciunas and Herbert Williams will be key. Valanciunas has been around a bit, so we know what he could do. But we got to see what Jones throughout this playoffs could do, especially on the defensive end. The Grease beat the T-Wolves, which is what was expected. The Grease, for some reason, seem to have to be constantly coming back from double-digit deficits. But in the end, they won the series, and of course, that is what was predicted. The Warriors easily handled the Nets, a team that was missing a couple of their key players. So there is no, surprise to say that they easily got past, got past the Nuggets. The Mavs defeated the Jazz. I have said this for a few years. Beating the Jazz, especially in the playoffs, is not an accomplishment. No disrespect to the Jazz. They have a good complement of players, a good team, but I have been saying this that they do not know how to win games. They play hard, and when you play hard, you will win some games, especially in the regular season. But they're not playing winning basketball. On the East, the Sixers got past Toronto, which they should. So, not really a surprise. Person spoke about the Raptors beating them 3-1 in the regular season, but I always said that did not mean anything. Toronto relies on the defense, which is important, but scoring is a problem because they're not potent on that end. There is no one you could say that is offensively gifted on the Raptors. Like someone you could say, go get me a basket. But that's the thing. If Toronto figured out the Sixers, then Philly might have had some serious problems. Doc Rivers has shown his limitations in making adjustments. What also worked in favor of the Sixers is that a number of Toronto players were either injured, they were either out injured, or they were hurt while playing. So the result was a foregone conclusion. Miami got by the Hawks as they should. This is not, like Philly playing the Hawks last year when Philly was supposed to have knocked out the Hawks. And instead, Doc Rivers, instead of him doing what he was supposed to do, the team lost. You notice I did not mention or put blame on Ben Simmons. This was not really the issue for Philly losing. The Philadelphia Sixers, they were significantly better than the Hawks. If Ben was a problem, Doc could have simply benched Ben Simmons, and they still had a much better roster than Atlanta to win the series. So that's that. Anyway, Miami should have won the series against Atlanta, and they did. So, you know, good for Miami. Milwaukee got past the Bulls. They should have, and they did. The Celtics Nets series was always going to be a tough matchup. It probably did not turn out in the result, you know, getting swept to reflect what persons may say is a tough matchup. But of course, the games were kind of close. Were kind of close, despite getting swept. In the second half of the season, the Celtics had, the best defense, and arguably they were probably the best team in the league. They started the season slow and figured things out. The Nets, on the other hand, well, we know the fiasco they went through throughout the season. What I thought really matters, well, wow, thinking about it, quite a few. Um, I will not speak on the coaching. It was clear that Steve Nash was out coached. And I could point to a number of things, that support that if necessary. But how can you have Goran Dragic, Patty Mills on the team, and have Kyrie operating as the point guard? I know officially his position is point guard, but he's horrible at it. And worse, you have Patty and Goran playing in a way that they're not comfortable, and in essence, you're making them ineffective. I know you're still wondering why I said Kyrie is horrible at point guard. Let me explain just a little. When Kyrie started his career with the Cavs, the team was no good. It was when LeBron came and took over the playmaking, the team started to win, and of course, we know what happened. He goes to Boston. The team was better with him off, win wise, than him on. In Brooklyn, when he first arrived the first year, you saw the same thing happen. The team better with him off than on. Fast forward to when James Harden joined the team. It was clear that he would not be the best point guard. So if you recall, he told James Harden, play the point and he will play the two. The team was a lot more successful that way. Kyrie was not playing point guard. With James gone, why would you put him in the point guard position? Make no mistake, Kyrie is a talented player and he makes tough shots. If you're in a bind and you want a basket, give it to him. But you don't want Kyrie making decisions running the team. He does not do that well, and his entire career has shown that. Putting Kyrie in that position in the playoffs is a recipe for disaster. Now, I think the Nets realized that a bit, and KD took on quite a bit of the playmaking responsibilities. This is also not KD's comfort zone. He will do it for a game here and there. He will do it in spurts. But it's a tough thing to ask him to do that for an entire series. Again, you have Patty Mills and Goran Dragic who can play the point guard position. The Nets made it easier for the Celtics than it needed to be. The other thing nobody's talking about is the ISO ball the Nets was playing. They have players who can go one on one, obviously. But why would you want to do that for most of the game? This is not street ball. You play an NBA series that way, and you certainly will lose. The Celtics know where the ball is going. It's either going to one or two players in an ISO situation, so they could easily predict the ball movement or lack thereof and send multiple defenders at them. The way you saw two players, three players at KD all the time, especially when he about to take that shot and you saw two persons jumping. KD and Kyrie, is the one who always takes the shots or most of the shots. And it's not a bad thing for most of them to take the shots, but if the ball moves and it eventually finds its way back to them, then, it creates more problems for the defense. You know, that extra swing creates an open shot. But trust is important in your teammates. So the Nets lost, and as expected, playing against a team with the defense of the Celtics and playing the way they played, not so surprising. Now, the second round is here. I'm expecting the Bucks Celtics to be a long series, going either 6 or 7. With Miami, you're not really certain what you're going to get out of them. I believe they will win the series, but will not be surprised if the Sixers actually win it, especially if Embiid comes back within a couple games. The Sixers have a more talented team than the Heat. And I think everybody knew that from the start of the regular season. And with James Harden and Embiid, I mean, we could talk about Tobias Harris, you know, the emergence of Maxi and all of that sort of thing. So the Sixers have a much better team than the Heat. I don't know that they play better team ball than the Heat, but they have a better team, and one should not be surprised if they won. But I'm expecting the Heat to win the series. The Warriors should make quick work of the Grizzlies, especially if they play the same way they played against the Timberwolves. The Mavs Jazz should go 6 or 7, and I'm expecting it to be a good one. Hoopinhoops.com.